John Cedars wants to give a voice to the silent majority. But does his opinions really reflect the people? XJWs around the world have spoken. They agree with the Russian ban on Jehovah's Witnesses. But when given national attention in a BBC interview, what does John Cedars have to say about it?
With the idea of banning the group in Russia, as the Russian government wants to do. What's your thoughts on it?
Hello, Nuala. I think it's a terrible idea.
John Cedars doesn't represent you. Don't give him any more power than he already has. This ad was paid for by the aggressive apostate army. Alright, so yeah, that was me just having a little fun, but it's time to get serious. You know, I don't get involved in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, not really, but something's come to my attention that I just couldn't stay quiet about anymore. John Cedars, if you're really going to elect yourself as the voice of the silent majority, then maybe you should be more careful with what you say, especially with an international interview like the one you just did for the BBC. As my good buddy Eric the Son of Thunder said recently on the Vast Apostate Hour, you missed a golden opportunity to voice a list of grievances that you have with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And yeah, you kind of said some of the negative things about it, but in the same breath, you said that you were against the ban in Russia? Oh yeah, human rights and all that, yeah, we get it. Everyone should be able to practice whatever religion they want, right? Freedom of religion. It's a very important thing. Except the Jehovah's Witnesses are not a religion, they're a cult. How many times do we have to say this? You know, most people that disagree with the Russians banning Jehovah's Witnesses do so because they forget the distinction here. Religions, yeah, we're afraid there's a slippery slope there, right? You get all Jehovah's Witness paranoid. They're the ones that are always paranoid that governments are going to come for religion, right? Do you really feel the same way they do? Are you really that paranoid? The Jehovah's Witnesses are not a religion, though, and you could always make that distinction. The reason why the Jehovah's Witnesses are coming under so much pressure is because they have a very unique set of circumstances that define them as a cult. The biggest one being their cause is united. Their policies are united. The Jehovah's Witnesses is one of the only religions that I know of that all of their leaders have to abide by a policy book. It's spelled out very specifically how to handle a wide variety of cases, situations that occur in the congregations. One of them being the issue of child abuse. The government of Russia decided to get involved because they are not doing anything to change this worldwide policy that they have. Almost every other religion in the world, if they came under fire for how they handled child abuse cases, guess what? They would change how they went forward in the future. But not the Jehovah's Witnesses. You know why? Because the government gives them a little book called Shepherd the Flock. And it tells them verbatim what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do as elders and leaders in the congregation. So when a child abuse victim comes to them, they're not allowed to say, well, in this situation, I think this is how we should proceed. No. They have to obey what the book says. And what does the book say? Well, we all know by now, right? It's that if a kid comes to you and says that he's been touched by brother so-and-so, unless there were two witnesses to verify that story, it gets swept under the rug. This is why this religion is unique, okay? Because worldwide, they have decided that despite there being all these cases swept under the rug of child abuse, their policy that's followed around the world has not changed. Sure, you can tax them, you can sue them, you can do as many half measures as you want, but the core problem is always going to exist if you don't stem out the governing body and their influence, their worldwide unity. Which is why I believe the Russian ban is perfect. If you don't have the governing body, you don't have their printed materials, you don't have the witnesses meeting together in the Kingdom Hall, then guess what? They're divided. And all of a sudden, they have to start thinking for themselves. Well, this kid came to me and said that he's been molested. What do? Oh, I don't have this book telling me to ignore it. Maybe I should use my own common sense and my own heart to come up with a solution. I know, I'll go to the police. Anyone who has an irrational phobia or paranoia that the governments are going to come for all religions just because some cults get squashed, let me help to lay that fear to rest, okay? I think it would be so easy for us to differentiate a religion from a cult. All you have to do is go down the list. And one of the big things that makes Jehovah's Witnesses different from all other religions, as I said earlier, is the fact that they are united by a book of policies that their leaders have to follow. Any religion who has this setup, where they all obey a book of guidelines and policies, they're probably a cult. And if they're not a cult, they're probably willing to change what's written in that policy book if the government comes down hard on them. So stop telling me, oh, I'm afraid this is a slippery slope. My human rights are going to be going away if we allow the Jehovah's Witnesses to be banned in Russia. It's nonsense. This is a unique circumstance that needs to be dealt with accordingly. Oh, and by the way, if you're going to try to represent the silent majority of Jehovah's Witnesses, could you at least look a little bit more presentable? Did you see the way this guy looked in that interview? YouTube viewers, I'm afraid you're to blame partly for this. The XJW community has propped up this man. They've paid his rent. They've fed his family. He hasn't had to work in years, guys. He's been going on vacations and doing whatever the hell he wants. Has the time to write a book thicker than this one because he doesn't have a job. And you viewers and you contributors are partly to blame for him going on BBC looking like somebody who's never had to get out of bed before 12 o'clock in the afternoon in years. Thanks a lot. You've given this guy the venue, you've given him the platform, and you've given him the popularity to represent us in the worst way imaginable. I just hope that we can reverse some of this damage that's been done. Please, unsubscribe to him. Stop watching his videos. Stop giving him money. For God's sake, he does not need money to do what he does. None of us, and I mean none of us, needed donations to make YouTube videos. None of us. Not a single one of us. Oh, and by the way, I published a book, okay, without going the donation route. That's right. I ended up publishing it myself. Amazon will do it for free. You've all been played for fools. I'm sorry. And it's just getting worse. Thanks a lot, guys, for hearing me out. I know a lot of this probably made you uncomfortable and wasn't easy to hear, but there's just no reason why we should have one man representing the community like we've done. Especially a guy like John Cedars. Alright, faithful slave, I'm out.